Welcome back to the Young Money Podcast with me and Vince. Diana Menez is here. Go ahead,
And
Vince.
my name is Vince Galanco from
Snakes
When
sa
in Manila.
taho. Welcome back, everybody.
Yep, welcome back again with Diana Meneses. I'm Vince Galanco from WhenInManila.com. This is the Young Money Podcast. This is a podcast where we try to interview the most amazing people and ask them about their success stories and how you too could possibly be earning the money they are earning. Of course, success isn't just defined by money, but it would be nice if you didn't have to at least worry about that. So that's sort of the topic we sort of cover here.
Yeah.
But just for a little background, Diana, in case people are wondering, you and I also have our little
Yeah.
entrepreneurial journeys. Maybe you could share yours real briefly.
Yeah, definitely. Because like probably people are gonna be like, oh, why these guys have this podcast talking about ano akala nila they can just teach us. Our guests are gonna teach us, but also we have some piece of information to share. Because at least personally speaking, I started really from nothing. Like I had nothing. I really did everything that I know as of today by failing and by making mistakes as well. A lot of it, in fact. I even left my own home when I was 18 years old by myself. I took a plane. I didn't have money even for the flights, so I had to have a contract with an agency. So I really figured my way out of my own home because I feel, especially for today's guest, I feel like this is a little connected to it because it's important for people to understand. And next time I'm going to get a little bit even more informed about leaving your hometown. It's a thing that is so important for young people to understand. When you expose yourself to different people, different cultures, different markets, different points of views, and the way that they deal with life, you learn just a lot. Like there's so much to learn. Like what happened to me here was I come from Brazil. I know nothing. I didn't speak any English. I learned my English from the Filipinos. I moved out from Brazil, and my dad was against it. My parents were not supporting me with that. Not, of course, if they weren't supporting me emotionally or mentally, how much more financially? Zero. So I really, really had to find a way, and I did. So I feel like we are now in a position, well, now that we get more mature, that we can actually share our story and inspire more people who would love to get out of the shell, you know what I mean, and then just do more. So with me, well, obviously, for people that already know me, I went through this showbiz era and also this modeling era thing, and then I transitioned, to into like doing businesses and starting different things. And I feel like nowadays, like I always say, people have so many platforms that they can actually put their value on. So hindi lang yung parang mag-apply ka sa trabaho or you will have to, literally just be a nurse. Nothing against nurses, they're doing great, but you don't have to follow the exact thing that the traditional family wants you to do. Be a doctor, be a lawyer, you know what I'm saying? Be a nurse. Do what your family wants you to do. No. Remember, the value is here, and you know what you want, and only you know how you can do it best. So I feel like we can inspire a lot of people with this podcast, and Vince is also talaga you did it on your own din, di ba? Kaya we're here to talk.
Yep. Very young as well. Like you, parents weren't doing well, so I moved out. I think I was 16. Hustler
Same.
as well. So I just took the opportunities available for me, the best opportunities. One was the military. So I was part of the U.S. Navy because that was the best
Oh,
opportunity available to me at the time.
di ko alam yan.
After
I didn't know that.
for Oh yeah, I was part of the U.S. Navy for 4 years. After that,
Mm,
fortunately, after you do it, and the reason I did that was because I couldn't afford school. I also
mm,
didn't appreciate school then, but then after the military, that's when I realized, hey, I think I should get education.
mm,
Fortunately, they pay for school after you join the military, and from there, tried a few businesses, but then the U.S. went into depression, so moved to the
mm,
Philippines, and fortunately, blogging was just exploding. Then that's where a few of my ventures. One was which when in Manila,
mm,
fortunately did well, and from there got mixed in with other entrepreneurial ventures, restaurants, stores, etc. So, uh, but there's still always so much to learn.
Yeah.
So that's where the concept of the story of this podcast came from, where I just want to learn more from other industry leaders, other people who have their own stories and their journeys. And I
Yeah.
heard our guest today has a very, very interesting journey. Maybe you could
Very
intro her
interesting.
for us.
Very, very interesting. So she's actually a business strategist. She's an investor, inspirational speaker. She's the top 80 women to watch for 2017. And she was also 30 under 30 influensive entrepreneur of 2016. Wow. She has a lot of achievements here. At 25, she founded multiple international clothing brands. And she also invested and consulted a few dozen businesses worldwide. And one of the most in demand young inspirational speaker nowadays for us. And also, she's the first Philippine business enterprise, the youngest and only female speaker, by the way, at the first Philippine Business Enterprise Congress and Financial Congress of the Philippines, who also shared stage with international stars as well, in Australia and in New Zealand. So, sobrang prestigious sa atin to have her here as our second guest of our podcast, who can inspire a lot more other Filipinos. She also was featured on ABS-CBN's MMK because of her story, which is amazing because she actually I did my research no. Si Hershey kasi, I met her. I'm going to introduce her full name in a while. I met her through a very kind um, attitude that she had towards me when I was looking for someone who could dress me up for a shoot. And I found her brand to be perfect for it. And without any hesitation, she just said yes to it and went there. Like, siya yung owner, parang she went to my shoot, she dressed me up. I was like, wow. Yan yung nagagawa talaga when you're hands-on on your business and you know that you are the boss and you're successful. So let's all welcome here on the show, Hershey Hilado, one of the most undaunted Filipino Australian entrepreneur that exists today. Welcome to the show.
Now, thanks so much for having me, guys. I was just my ears are getting hotter with that intro.
Ang dami kasi I didn't even say everything. There's a lot.
Actually, yeah. Hershey, now that you're here, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what you have been doing, what's been keeping you busy, and yeah, just a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I think that one of the things that really made me different, and I think why my story really resonated with a lot of Filipinos is like the way I started. I'm a high school dropout. I didn't finish high school. I used to be
Same here.
homeless here in the Philippines.
Oh wow.
I live in Quezon City Circle. I'm sure you know where that is. I used to live there for 2 years, homeless. And I started working since I was 14 years old. So I was like hustling on the street. I got involved in so many things, and I went through a lot of mistakes. And by the age of 14, my mom sold me into a fixed marriage. I was really, really young then. So I escaped that. Cut the long story short, I'm sure people can watch those stories on MMK, but cut the long story short, I escaped that. And then that's how I came to Manila with 2,000 peso in my pocket. And that's how I became homeless. And then I had, 7 siblings, and I raised them all. We're all from different dads. I only have one full blood brother. And then when I was 18, I moved to Australia. I married an Australian. I worked there and I mopped the floors in McDonald's. That's my first job there. And from there, I was putting my brother to school. He finished as a nurse, and I was putting everyone to school. And then I realized to myself, everything that happened to me back home, like there must be a much bigger purpose than just working for someone, 9 till 5 and providing for my family. Like I'm so busy giving away so much of what I have, and there's nothing else that fulfills me and that makes me feel excited other than just being a provider. And that's when I really started with business. Like I wanted to provide for my family and that financial freedom. So I started my first business when I was 19, and ever since I've been,
We moved to
I've
18, and then sorry, and then 19 you started your first business. I'm
yeah,
taking
19. Yeah. So I started my first e-commerce business at 19. But before that, I was doing a lot of like shifty stuff. Yeah, I was selling like unlegit goods on eBay, and I was making money on that. And then they shut me down. They blocked me. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I need to take this seriously. I think I've got the knack for building a business. So that's when I first started my first fashion e-commerce business at 19, and from there the rest is
Wow.
history.
I feel like a lot of people are like that, where they might have the entrepreneurial spirit and the hustle, but when they're
Yeah.
young and they don't have a lot of good role models, they end up selling fake goods or just whatever they can hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's a lot. So many entrepreneurs or just people I talk to who didn't have, like me, who didn't have a role model. Uh, we end up doing stupid, crazy things, but fortunately, I think you learn from it. And like how you talk about McDonald's, my first job was Burger King. So
There you go.
Oh.
and wow, crazy! You got. I didn't know that was a thing in the Philippines, being sold into a marriage.
It is. It
How,
is.
how,
Like,
Yeah, I didn't
you
know
know,
also.
it's very. It's a crazy story, and I mean, like, we could talk about it for hours. But like, I think for me, it's such a it was one of those things that really changed me. And as much as it was really really bad, like what happened to me, like being sold into a marriage that I didn't want, that my own mother faked my own birth certificate so I can get married. At that time I was 16, but then I had a fake birth certificate to get married at 18. So it's not something that you know it's a secret. Everyone knows that. And the thing is, like, nobody talks about it here. It's crazy. And I've heard and seen so many stories about that, because unfortunately that's what our parents knew. As long as there's money flowing in and there's food on the table, that's all that matters. But like, selling your own children for money, that's not something that's new in the Philippines.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. Just like Vince, I didn't know that. I know about your story, but I just didn't know it was actually a common thing to happen for Filipinos. And I feel like we have to. We were talked about off camera. We were talking about how to upgrade the mentality of a lot of things that have been happening here, and how people are. We call it crab mentality, but it's not really crab
Mm.
mentality. It's just really like I said in the beginning of the show, if you don't expose yourself to different cultures and how people think differently, how they execute faster and more efficient, then we're just gonna stay stagnant the way we are at
Yeah.
certain things here, no? But not naman lahat. I can't generalize everything. But it's just really something that I hope that with what we are doing here, we can influence more Filipinos and the next generation to be better, because we just have to be better and better and better, right? Viz, I know that her story is so interesting. There's just so much we can ask her about her
yeah, but
starting from being homeless to becoming a very successful entrepreneur, and ang dami niya ginagawa. Like, yeah, go ahead, Vince.
yeah, I didn't want to jump into something else right away. I want to at
Yeah.
least close out this because I feel like it's such a heavy, big thing for our
Yeah,
listeners,
yeah.
especially if they've never heard this story. So just maybe you could just give us a quick uh, how did you eventually overcome that tough part of your life before we talk about the businesses you're doing now?
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
like to give a little for our listeners a little close because even me, it's like, oh my god, that's so heavy. That's
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that today.
Yeah.
Same, same.
You know what it is? I think the number one thing that really helped me through it, because I was suicidal. Like, I was just a kid. I was a kid
Yeah,
with no support, and I didn't know what to do. I was uneducated. I absolutely no support. So I think that the number one thing that really helped me through that rough patch in my life was personal accountability. Like, you can't control the way what people do to you, but you can control how you deal with it. And for me, I that was the only choice I've got. If I give up now, my siblings will die. Nobody's gonna feed them. Nobody's gonna put them to school. So I think personal accountability, and then a sense of, like, having the sense of responsibility is what really made me survive that, because that was the only choice I've got. I wasn't even crying at that time. I didn't have time to cry. I didn't have any time to feel sorry for myself, because if I give up, this children is gonna die. So I took responsibility of my own trauma, because some people would just say, "Oh no, you know what? My mom fucked me up, so I'm just gonna be a bum and waste my life, the rest of my life. I'm useless now anyway. So why make an effort? I think that's the easy route, but that's self sabotage because like you've already given away your power. You know what I mean? Like you have no power over what people do to you, but moving forward, you have all of the choices, all of the opportunities ahead of you if you become bigger than your problems.
Wow, look at that.
So
That's very,
nice.
very
Yeah.
inspiring. Thank you for that. I feel like a lot of people needed to hear that because even me,
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I don't know how I would have. I mean, I feel like you're so strong, and that's really great. I feel like you pull people up with that type of courage, the type of strength. So thank you for that. Uh, so
Yeah.
so so with that, now I guess we can talk about the gist of the show,
Wait
which is
ka,
yeah.
babe. Ang ano
I
lang,
know, right?
her,
Or we just end the show on that high note. It's like, okay, I feel inspired now. We're good.
parang ano, feeling ko, like, we need more time with her.
Yes, that's what happens to our guests. It seems like we 40 minutes is not enough, but
Yeah, it's
yeah.
not.
So for the show, we do money success isn't just about money, but
Yeah.
at least we want for our viewers. It would be nice if they didn't have to worry about that. If you didn't have to, it is a part of life. I mean,
Yeah.
there are many, many other ways to be successful. There are many, many other ways to be happy. But just for us, we'd like to discuss, financial aspects like what did you do that has gotten you to where you are, and what are you currently doing so that you can be financially stable at least, if not successful. So please, what are you currently doing? What are some of your bigger ventures at the moment?
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm really hands-on with both of my businesses. So I've got Revamp, which is a streetwear brand, and we sell internationally. And then I've got the apparel manufacturing business, which is called Pred House. We manufacture for brands in Australia, US, Europe, and even local brands as well. So that's really the bigger part of the business. The funny thing is, like the manufacturing business was somewhat accidental because I came back to the Philippines 4 years ago to kind of just reinvent myself and then find a manufacturer here for my brand in Australia. And what happened was I was like really frustrated with other factories here where they don't want to work with startups because obviously startups don't really have the money. So I'm looking to work with manufacturers with low MOQ and stuff, and that's where the frustration really came from. And I decided to just if I can't work with anyone that is willing to support my business and my vision, then I'm just gonna fucking build one. You know what I mean? So I did,
Nice.
and
I
that
love
was
the spirit.
so that was 4 years ago. I started with one machine. Now we have our own office here in Lipa. We have our own internal team, and then we also work with other factories here in the Philippines with like over 300 plus staff because we service a lot of like major brands in Australia now and then in the US.
Amazing, amazing.
Wow.
I told you, Vince, hindi kita papahiya dito sa guest natin. Napaka dami ng achievements that people can get inspired. Like, oh my God, like, super. Like, actually, what you mentioned about, I started my own swimwear company before, and I had the same difficult time, but I'm not as strong as you, or I wasn't. Okay, I'm getting there. So I quit because I was having a hard time. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
Basta ganon din. Like when I was a startup, even though I had other things I was doing at the same time. But I can totally relate to what you're saying, and I'm glad that I know you now because now I know who to look for
Yes.
as
So
well.
so so with hearing about that, for listeners out there, if they want to do something similar, let's say they're into fashion. Let's say Diana wants to put up again her
Yeah, my
swimsuit brand
swim.
again, or just they want to go into fashion. How do you start?
Yeah. Okay. I think one thing that this is one thing that they don't learn from any gurus online because when people think of business, they think about money straight away, money for
Mhm.
capital and how much money can I make, which is so fucking wrong. Like I think one of the most successful people I know, they never chase the money. They're the visionary. Like they have a very compelling vision on where they want to take the business, and their why is like huge. Like with startups, the reason why 80% of the startups fail is because they don't have a vision that compels them to move forward when things get hard. Because money is easy to find. That's the thing. If you can sell that vision for what you're starting, it's not hard to find investors. It really doesn't. And I can honestly say this after being in business for like, 10, 15 years. Yeah. I think that people need to start with understanding with their market, who they want to sell, like find a product that has, that has a demand for it. Because sometimes, kasi sa Pinas, it's like, ay, gusto ko mag-franchise ng siomai. Like, there you go, 150,000. They would 200,000. They'll just give. And it's like, what the fuck are you thinking? It's just like, is there a real demand for it? Like, what makes that franchise or that product unique that people would buy it? Do you know what I mean? So I think people sometimes, entrepreneurial people can sometimes get blinded by their own perception of reality, and that they forget that the reality is when you build a business, you got to make sure that you follow the procedure. You have the right product, you have a market to sell it to, and you have somewhat a financial literacy to know your numbers and get started. So I guess like when I started my business, I had no capital, man. Like really, I was wala. So when I got a. So just to give you guys a background, and I know people thinks that when I started my business, I have like thousands and dollars of funds, and that voila, as in zero. So when I first started my first brand, Australia, I was my own photographer. So I would put my camera in front of me. I would put it on timer. I would run. I was my own hairdresser, makeup artist, model. I would run 10 seconds post. I also edited my own images. I built my own fucking website. And it's I
So we're
studied
doing TikTok before TikTok.
exactly. Yes. Now because dati kasi obviously I didn't go to school, yeah. So I had when I was working in McDonald's, I saved $4,000. And then yung $4,000 na yun, I paid it to the web developer to build my website, my e-commerce website. And he never finished it. So I got scammed. So I'm down into my last $50. It's like, what can I do with this? I need to do this. It's like, so I jumped into online and I studied HTML coding for $50. So I bought a course and then I studied it for 24 hours and then I built my own website from there. So I only had $50.
Nakilabot ako. Oh my
Yes.
God, ang galing mo. No?
Tapos, ang nangyari, so when I left,
Vince.
when I left Melbourne and then I moved to Sydney, I had no money kasi pinalayas na ako ng ex-husband ko noon eh. I only had $200 enough for gas to drive from Melbourne to Sydney for 11 hours straight. That was the last money I've got. So I was sleeping at my friend's couch for like 2 months, I think. And then she happens to work with factories in China, the manufacturers for clothing. So I asked her like, hey, I have no money, but I will make it up to you. I'm gonna find a job and I'm gonna pay you back. Can you please make this one sample of the dress, and I'll make it work. So she did it. After 2 weeks, the sample came back. I did the same thing. I modeled makeup. I'm my own photographer. I put it up on my website and I put it on pre-order, meaning I don't have the stock yet. So I'm gonna use other people's money to give me capital to start my own business. So I put it on pre-order.
So you were doing Kickstarter before Kickstarter.
Exactly. Exactly. So ganun nangyari. And then what happened was, I didn't know at that time, like Instagram was pretty new. And then there's this blogger in the US, her name is like Amrezi, I think. At that time, she had like 1.2 million followers. And I didn't know who she was because she legit purchased a clothes on my online store. So she purchased like a crop top and then a skirt, and then I shipped it to the US and that. And then when she posted it, she tagged me and then put my online store at the bottom. So that pre-order dress that I put on my website, that I personally designed, that one dress, that night I made $12,000, and that $12,000, that's what built everything that I've got now. And that wasn't even my money because I don't have an inventory at that time.
Ulit.
That
Ano ba?
that clothing is still yet to be manufactured. So customers had to wait for 2 weeks, but they already paid me. So I used that money to fund my manufacturing.
So inspiring. I'm getting goosebumps, Vince. Oh
Did-
my
it's-
God.
Did you ever meet that influencer?
No. Nah.
Oh, really?
Oh, you should try to reach out.
Yeah, I should
I
try
did, but I can only imagine like how many
Yeah.
people on her DMs. But I always like I'm really grateful for her. Like she literally changed my life there.
And
That's
she didn't even
awesome.
know, diba? That's amazing. That's such
Yeah.
a blessing. Wow. Yeah, we all have instances where some people come as angels to our life, and then they just
Yeah.
open
So
that door.
So I
Yeah.
Go
guess
ahead.
that's a great tip for people out there without the capital. Is that is another way to start entrepreneurially is the Kickstarter technique or the pre-sales technique.
Yeah, I think the most important part of it is just like it's not really about the money, it's about being resourceful, because nowadays like you can partner up with people, you can collab with people, and I
Mhm.
think that people also forget that I've seen a lot of people that want to collab with other brands that they just want to get. I think like what value can you add on the table? So I think when starting a business, I think it's important to see what you have first and what can you do with it, and run with it rather than just, you know what, ask for money for, like from your parents, or raise money. Like how can you, like as an investor, I'm not going to invest on an idea with no proven value. So I
Mhm.
think most important part for startups is look at the skill set that you've got, and if you don't have the skill set necessary to build that, you know, specific business, learn it. Like internet is free nowadays, you know, almost free. So you can learn anything online. Like for me, I became a web developer overnight. You know, I paid $50, and I sent one of my siblings to school to study that for 2 years. You know, so I think it's just if there's a will, there's a way.
There's a will. There's a will.
So have you been doing clothing since that time? You've just been on this
Yes.
entrepreneurial route.
Yeah. So I've always been in e-commerce fashion. I'm really passionate about it, but I've also been involved in other few businesses. I advised a few businesses as well, not just in e-commerce, but you know, other businesses like, you know, painting wallpapers and stuff like that. So I've been involved in a few businesses aside from fashion, e-commerce, and manufacturing.
Okay. And locally, with the love, forgive the ignorance. I know nothing of fashion. I wear a
Yeah,
t-shirt and jeans every day,
yeah.
with no brands. So locally, is I know you do international, but locally, would people also know your brand here?
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I always promote Revamp as a Filipino-owned brand. I think one of the things that I really wanted to change when I came here is ang perception kasi ng Pinoy when you say Filipino-owned, Filipino-based, like low quality, and I'm like, that's bullshit. Like we
Yeah.
can do better than this, you know. So that's one of the things that I was really critical about Revamp. You know, I want to make sure that we're creating like really great products that we could, you know, we could take internationally. And when they say, you know, no, actually this is made in the Philippines, and you know, all of that, I take pride in where I came
I
from.
was gonna
And I
say that.
think
Dapat take pride. Diba?
yes, yes, it's sad, man, because I in Australia, and I'm sure same in the US, most people would buy locally made products. They
Yeah.
appreciate it. They see the value in it. I'm like, when I came back here, it's like, how come like people, you know, people would support international brands like Zara and Mango more than their own? And I think
Mhm.
that there's so much talent and creative and skill set in the Philippines that we are not maximizing just because that we so caught up with the socialism, with the, you know, looking
Reality.
good and all of that stuff. It's just all
Yeah,
fakery, you know.
that's true. That's true. I
Yeah.
feel there's a lot that we can influence people to start accepting themselves a little bit better and loving themselves before they start looking for what is the quality and what is the love they're looking elsewhere, because it starts
Yeah.
here, and I think that's what is lacking a little bit. So hopefully we'll be able to influence a lot of people. I got this phrase from you from an interview that I watched about you, and you said there's no adversity that is impossible to overcome. I found that so powerful. Sa
There's
lahat ng
nothing.
diba?
Mm.
So, okay, so we've heard how you got started. So people out there, I think listeners, I think I feel like it really just started with that hustle, with that drive. So let's say they do have that hustle, they do have the drive. What are the concrete steps you recommend now? Do you recommend them going Lazada? Do you recommend them going on create their own website? Do you recommend what would be a concrete first few steps other than having that drive now?
I think like for the Philippines specifically, I think it's best if they work with marketplaces like Lazada and Shopee, because they can just buy a small stock of inventory from a wholesaler and then put it on Lazada and Shopee, and that's not going to cost a lot of money. I think that's the best way of getting your product market fit, instead of like going full on and spend on your inventory and stuff. But just make sure that that product is, just do your due diligence, make sure that, you know, other sellers are not selling it and stuff. But the best way to get your product tested is to do it on marketplaces and Lazada, like Lazada, because they already have the data for it. Yeah. So I would always push people to do that
Tada!
first.
No.
Yeah.
You guys know.
Yes.
So yeah.
So,
So
so
that's it.
nowadays people can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I was just
So,
gonna revise
so
what she said about Lazada and other e-commerce websites that people should focus on it. Go ahead, Vince.
yes. So the suggestion is nowadays, if you have a product you think you can sell, you can test it out on markets like Lazada and Shopee. Um, for people, well, for clothing, what would you recommend is a rough, good capital to start with that? One and two. What if you don't have capital?
Yeah, so I think for clothing, if you're gonna start with Lazada or Shopee, that type of platforms, I think just make again like design is what makes your brand really different as well. I guess like if you're not creative, work with a local creative like an artist or a fashion illustrator, because you can't do everything. So I think first of all is knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, because there's so many things in Lazada. Like you can pretty much buy everything there, right? So I think if you're gonna start with, let's just say, let's pretend a t-shirt business selling, unique prints from local artists that you collaborated with. I think that if you just buy, I mean, like Fruit of the Looms or Gildan t-shirts instead of manufacturing your own t-shirts, it's much easier to do that way. I always advise people to do that. So it's like the Gildan t-shirt will be like 150, and then you work with a screen printer. I guess you can start with like 20K safely and then launch your own brand there. And what you can also do is like if you can start drafting the design in the t-shirt, post all of the design you have in Lazada, and you can put it on pre-order. Like when someone orders it, that's when you buy the inventory and that's when you have it screen printed or heat pressed. At least you're not sitting with 1,000 pesos worth of inventory. I mean, I even in my business, I do that. We have a design, a t-shirt, and then we put the design in it. We put it on our website, and we see which styles are moving. And so once we see that it's moving, then we manufacture more. We manufacture more of those. For styles that doesn't move, we take it off the inventory and then we just redesign. So that's the best way of doing it.
So, so you can do pre-orders on Lazada and Shopee nowadays.
It's not. I'm pretty sure you can, but the thing is like it's pretty quick because if you have the stocks of like t-shirt lang, and then if you invest in let's say a vinyl kara and then parang i-heat press mo lang siya kasi ang screen printer kasi it takes time to dry it. But then with vinyl heat press, you cut it and then you press it and done. So you can basically ship the products the same day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Learning
Okay.
a lot. Yeah.
That might be the next level though. But for if they were to invest in those printers, those vinyl printers you're talking about, what would the investment be then?
Mura lang kasi ang silhouette, ang cameo silhouette is like 14K, and then yung vinyls mo naman you can buy per yard, and then ang per yard yun is 120 lang eh. So it's like it's
And
nothing,
sorry
man.
for an ignoramus like me, what are those? what is the
So
silhouette? What are those?
yeah, so basically all you need is like if you can start a business like this, obviously you need a computer.
Okay.
The cameo silhouette that I was talking about, it's like a computer cutter that cuts the design that you laid out on the computer and cuts it on. Yun na yung cutter. Basically, kung ano yung dinesign mo dun sa computer mo, ikakat niya dun sa sheet of vinyl. So once the cutter cuts it, you transfer into a t-shirt, heat press mo yun. A heat press would only cost about 12,000 pesos. Heat press mo yun, done. So you basically need money on a startup inventory for the blank t-shirts. Let's just say 5,000 pesos. Okay na yun. Like get all of the sizes and basic colors, and then bumili ka ng cameo silhouette Gen 4. That's about I think 14K ba or 18K. Di ko na alam, but I would always encourage people to buy it secondhand. You don't need to buy it brand new. There's a lot of secondhand sa Facebook Marketplace, and then buy a heat press. Same thing. You can get a heat press secondhand for 6K, and then yun lang. That's basically all you need. Like people just overcomplicate this stuff.
I love how you make it sound so easy. It's almost like I feel like I can do it. Like I had
It's
no
very,
clue what
very
those
easy,
terms
man.
were, and now I feel like I can do it. Diana,
It's
you
very
need to start your
straightforward.
swimsuit business again. I should be
I
your first
know.
model, okay?
Actually, I'm just waiting for you guys, well, Vince has met my boyfriend already, but I'm waiting for him to. I'm waiting for the country to open, and when he's back, he is a genius in terms of styling. I don't know what that man is like. Oh my god, like he can style. Like when I don't know what to wear, this is what you put together and whatever.
What's
I don't
his
know.
zodiac sign? He's a Pisces, yeah?
He's a Gemini.
Oh no. Oh yeah, actually Gemini can be creative.
Yeah, we're both Gemini. So when once the Philippines is open for foreigners to come in as tourists,
Yeah.
then we will definitely contact you. Which in fact, before prior to this podcast even happening, I sent your profile already to him and I said, I know you want to do your own brand, so this is where you go. Sabi ko, there's a Filipino manufacturer that is really good, really good, and I personally know that it's good because I wore it. I used it on my shoot. Thank you very much for doing that for
You're
me.
welcome.
Very, very kind. Vince, imagine mo, siya yung may-ari. Siya mismo pumunta sa shoot ko. She dressed me with a custom-made outfit from her brand.
Yeah.
Like, super prestigious for me.
Do you
Thank
do
you.
men's clothing in case I ever
It's
need a?
it is.
So
It's unisex. Most of our stuff is actually unisex on Revamp.
so when pigs fly, I will have my photo shoot. I will call you. But
Absolutely, man. I got you.
I have so many other questions, but I just checked our time. We're at 36 minutes, so it's time
Already.
flies when
Tanongin
you're
mo
learning
pa,
and having fun.
sayang.
So I'm gonna have to get to the gist of our show, which is our main question. Show me the money. So tell me, as a new person in this industry,
Yeah.
what type of earnings, what type of money can they earn from this? And as a top, like if they make it to the top ish, like how high does the money get? Can you give us some figures on that?
For me, it definitely doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely.
So now, like if we're talking about figures now, I probably made 8 figures already. It's gonna be a hard
Pesos.
grind.
Eight
No,
figures pesos.
no,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
right in those. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, honestly, it's funny because I don't think about it. You know what I mean? Like it's not my money; it's the business money. I guess like you get paid what kind of value you put out to the marketplace. Yeah, but it was a long, hard grind for me, man. It's like I'm in this now for 13 years, and like every time I say this stuff, I always like say it. Don't expect to be successful within 5 years or 8 years. It's just it took me more than 10 years. Like I would have consistently 5 years, I would look at my bank account and it would like 0.02 cents, 0. Fucking 10 cents consistently for 5 years. And I was eating freaking baked beans and yun lang. But that, like, imagine being in that space for 5 years. It's like everyone gave up on you, your partner, your parents, your friends. You will get to that point that nobody will stop, like everybody will stop believing in you. That's why I always make sure that when I give advice, I don't say like you're gonna get rich from this. No, that's not the point. I think that
Okay.
yeah, like you become better as a person in general.
So congratulations on that success. For beginners though, for if I'm just gonna start out, what expectations can I have financially? Like just on one item. Like how much can I buy a blank t-shirt for after I screen print or whatever it is? How much can I sell it for? And roughly in a month, what is a rough reasonable earning I can expect? And in a year maybe, like what can be my annual income for someone who's just starting out?
Okay, I'm gonna use one of my clients as like a case study here, so it's a bit more realistic. You know, she's
Okay.
done really well in terms of her branding and stuff. And just to give you an idea, she orders like 500,000 worth of t-shirts from us every month. And the markup for that is, numbers wise, let's just say her cogs, including the t-shirt and then the print, the packaging, branding, whatever. Let's close it at 450. She sells the shirts for like 900. So if she's selling, like if she's, making 80-90% markup on those clothes, that's how much she makes just on t-shirts alone. Hindi pa na included yung mga sweaters and stuff. So you can, like, the amount of money you can make is infinite. But ultimately, the product is
I
one
love it.
thing. You have to be really, really great at branding as well. So for her, siguro she makes about 1 to 3 million a month, easy peso.
Wow.
Those are great,
So sa
great
mga
figures.
nanonood ngayon, you know what to do now and you know who to look for.
And I think this is a perfect time, Diana, for you to give us a little summary and maybe the
Yeah,
last question.
definitely. So,
Diana, I don't know why she takes notes, but it's just inspiring to me. So I'm like,
oh,
why not?
because I watch, like, all I do nowadays is like when we don't have tapings. Fortunately, this week I have tapings until Saturday, so today is the only day that I'm available for the podcast. But the days that I'm home, I notice that all the best podcasts that I watch and the things that I learn from, the hosts are taking notes. So
Yeah.
I noticed that, and then I was like, okay, if I'm gonna have a podcast, I'm gonna have to take this extremely seriously, and I'll have to do it. So I did take my notes. Yes, I
I
did,
love
because
it. I love it.
I love it, because it's just so inspiring to me how, from coming from the Philippines, when on a fixed marriage from her mom, she ran away, right? And then at 18 years old, she met someone else in Australia, right? And then at 19, she started her e-commerce business. Like, how do you even do that? That's amazing. Like 19 years old, and then you know, it's a lot of experience as well. And I feel like, I don't know, like, to summarize everything about her, I would need one episode. Kasi ang
Oh no,
dami
no,
na.
just like maybe the bullet points of
Oh man.
the key points for our listeners, just to
I
remind them
Yeah. I
for
will. I'll,
financially,
I'll
business wise.
I'll throw it out some lessons that we got from this
There you
very
go.
short time that we had with Hershey. But so one is, always be resourceful. No, know your strength and your weakness. Actually, weaknesses, no, and strengths, all. And also, if there's a will, there's a way. I also, like, I see that she said these things that she quoted in an interview of her that I watched. Aside from, also, if people would like to check her MMK, that would be very inspiring, so that you guys know that if you feel like discouraged to do something, please watch that, because then you will know nothing is impossible. Also, like, she says she was the most rebellious kid ever. I heard
I
that from
was.
the interview. Yeah. So I feel like, lahat ng tao may pag-asa. You guys don't have to feel like that it's not possible to do it. Like, with Hershey stories here, there's so much we can learn from. I wish we had more time with her. Like, accountability is very important. That's something she talks about. Um, yeah, what happens to you, depends doesn't it doesn't matter what happens to you, but it's how you deal with it. I think that was one of the most powerful messages that she had from the very beginning of the interview, that to me is like, wow, that's so true, because we see a lot of people are failing in life because they're reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Stop reacting, you know get get all of those things that are happening to you that you can't control, analyze them on your own, and then just get better from that. Stop reacting, stop talking. Like, there's a lot of chismoso and chismosa.
Yes.
It's part of our culture here, right? And
Yes.
that doesn't evolve us. So let's do like let's do like Hershey. Use anything that happened to us to just motivate us to be as successful as she is now. So thank you, Hershey. Grabe talaga. Like, I wish we can talk more with Hershey some next time,
Yeah.
maybe.
Actually,
Because,
Hopefully.
I think you can still ask one last question, Diana.
sige, Hershey, what can you tell people that are young and they don't have their money yet, but they want to make a lot of money, and they probably are still lost in that silver line of, like, do I go for the money because I need to feed my family, or do I go for my passion? So what do you suggest for the young people who they are striving to make a career, but at the same time, they also have necessities that they have to attend to? So
Yeah.
what is the balance between both, and then how do you get that young money?
I would never advise people to just quit their job, because I know most of Filipino millennials do have responsibilities. May mga pinapaaral, and then they support their
Mhm.
parents. So I did what I did in the beginning of my career is I was working, and then I was building my business at the same time. You have 24 hours a day. So if you work 8 hours for someone to pay the bills and everything, you still have so many hours after. One of the things that I really done well when I was younger is I didn't waste time. So keep a job that would still allow you to pay your bills. Because sometimes when people have a job, they just do enough to get them from being fired, and that's wrong, because you're also working to build someone's business and someone's vision. I think work with someone with all of your best, get promoted, do the best that you can every day. People will see that. And then pay your bills, but when you get home, make sure that you put 5 hours a day in building your own business. There's nothing that stops you from doing that. So when people say to me like, I can't do it because I've got a full-time job, I did that. I did that for freaking 6 years. I was working 12-hour shift as a security guard in Australia, and I was building my e-commerce business on the side. So it's just an excuse, really. So my
It is
advice
an
is
excuse.
keep a job.
So,
Yeah, keep a job. So then you don't have to be stressed about your bills and stuff. Put a savings on the side, and at the same time, while you're studying and while you're building your business, make sure that you're actually learning an extra skill set. I'm talking about like even Photoshop, how to edit stuff. Like learn a hard skill set that you can use in building that business. Not just reading books, but you also need the skill set aside from the mindset.
I think
nice.
that's a great last piece of advice.
Yeah.
Keep that day job, but hustle on the off peak hours. I actually our previous guest said something very similar. But oh my god, thank you so much for that. Both your drive, well, everything, your drive, your story, your tips, they've all been so useful to me. Hopefully to our listeners as well. But
Yeah.
it makes me almost feel like, oh my god, I feel like I can start a clothing business as well. So thank you so
Actually,
much for
no,
that.
she makes us feel that way, Na parang
Exactly. It makes you feel like everything's easy the way you talk about it. It's like I didn't even know what these terms were, and now I feel like I could take over the fashion world.
With
So
t-shirts.
yes. Thank you so much. I'll also reach out to you soon, possibly do a feature of you on When in Manila as well, just because your story's so amazing, and possibly have you as a guest again in the future. But really appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you for the last piece of advice. Thank you for being on our show, and hoping you all the best as well in the future.
Thanks, man. It's amazing, and I haven't done this for a while because of the pandemic. Yeah, so it's been amazing to reach out to the community, and hopefully, like my story and what we're doing here could really support other Filipino entrepreneurs. Like we need more of these.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I
So
totally love what you said. Oh my God. Thank you, Hershey. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
being
guys. Thank you.
here. Thank
So
you.
there you go. Thank you guys for tuning in. This was the Young Money Podcast with me, Vince Galanco of OneInManila.com, along with Diana Meneses, and of course our wonderful, inspiring guest Hershey here with us today. Oh, by the way, before we go, if they want to find out more about you or check your
Yeah.
clothes and buy some, etc., how can they reach out?
Yeah, so they can reach out on Instagram. We're more active on Instagram. So Revamp is my streetwear clothing brand. I'd love for other Filipinos to support it as well. So it's rvmp.est.2016, and they can also follow me on Instagram. It's Hershey_official.
All
So
right.
there you go. Anyway,
Thank
thank
you.
you again
Thanks,
fr-
guys.
from me and
Thank you.
Diana. We'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.